State of New California, notice to all Californians. Chapter 2, Grievance 52, April 20th, 2021. New California is a new state in development exercising its constitutional right to form from the state of California. The process to form New California is authorized and codified in Article 4, Sections 3 and 4 of the United States Constitution. Statement of intent. The citizens of New California have decided to remedy the abuse of power by the government of California by exercising their right to form a new state provided in the United States Constitution, Article 4, Sections 3 and Section 4. Quote, we are determined to live under a state government in the United States of America and under the Constitution of the United States, end quote. New California Declaration of Independence of January 15, 2018 states, quote, whenever any form of government becomes destructive, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. When a long train of abuses and acts to seize and hold the people's power without legal authority and pursuing invariably the same object that clearly demonstrates a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The preamble of the New California State Constitution states, we, the representatives of the undersigned counties within the state of California, do acknowledge and humbly invoke the favor of Almighty God for continued civil and religious liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution states, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, end quote. Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution states, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The counties of the New California state brought forward 95 Chapter 1 grievances between January 2018 and November 2019. On April 28, 2020, New California State will issue 95 additional Chapter 2 grievances to be announced in public on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. State of New California Grievance 52. Declaration of Grievance, Statement of Facts. The people of California are suffering from a tyrannical state government which fails to provide a Republican form of government, enables and supports across its southern border the invasion of the United States of America by illegal foreign nationals, and protects vicious criminals who commit outrageous acts of violence upon the citizens of America, all caused by a government of and for a monoparty system, led by a tyrannical dictator who openly defies federal law. California state government violates the following. United States Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. Quote, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence, end quote. United States Constitution, Article 6. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. The First Amendment, United States Constitution. Quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, end quote. The 14th Amendment, United States Constitution, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Order of the day: torture. On October 1st, 1946, 12 high-ranking Nazis were sentenced to death by the International War Crimes Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany. Among those condemned to death by hanging were Joachim von Ribbentrop, Nazi Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hermann Göring, founder of the Gestapo and chief of the German Air Force, and Wilhelm Frick, Minister of the Interior. 7 others, including Rudolf Hess, Adolf Hitler's former deputy, were given prison sentences ranging from 10 years to life. 3 others were acquitted. The trial, which lasted nearly 10 months, was conducted by an international tribunal of representatives from the United States, the USSR, France, and Great Britain. It was the first trial of its kind in history, and the defendants faced charges from crimes against peace to crimes of war and crimes against humanity. On October 16th, 10 of the architects of Nazi policy were hanged one by one. Hermann Göring, who at sentencing was called the, quote, leading war aggressor and creator of the oppressive program against the Jews, end quote, committed suicide by poison on the eve of his scheduled execution. Nazi Party leader Martin Bormann was condemned to death in absentia. On December 9, 1946, an American military tribunal opened criminal proceedings against 23 leading German physicians and administrators for their willing participation in war crimes and crimes against humanity. This case is known as the, quote, doctor's trial, end quote, USA versus Karl Brandt et al. On August 19, 1947, the judges of the tribunal delivered their verdict, but before announcing the guilt or innocence of each defendant, they confronted the difficult question of medical experimentation on human beings. Several German doctors had argued in their own defense that their experiments differed little from those conducted before the war by German and American scientists. Furthermore, they showed that no international law or informal statement differentiated between legal and illegal human experimentation. This argument was a great concern to 2 U.S. doctors who had worked with the prosecution during the trial, Dr. Andrew Ivy and Dr. Leo Alexander. As a result, on April 17, 1947, Dr. Alexander submitted a memorandum to the United States Council for War Crimes. The memo outlined 10 points that became known as the, quote, Nuremberg Code, end quote. It is a landmark document on medical ethics and one of the most lasting products of the, quote, doctor's trial, end quote. Permissible medical experiments from the trial transcript. The great weight of the evidence before us is the effect that certain types of medical experiments on human beings, when kept within reasonably well-defined bounds, conform to the ethics of the medical profession generally. The protagonists of the practice of human experimentation justify their views on the basis that such experiments yield results for the good of society that are unprocurable by other methods or means of study. All agree, however, that certain basic principles must be observed in order to satisfy moral, ethical, and legal concepts. 1. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent. Number 2, the experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, unprocurable by other methods or means of study, and not random and unnecessary in nature. Number 3, the experiment should be so designed and based on the results of animal experimentation and a knowledge of the natural history of the disease or of the problem under study that the anticipated results will justify the performance of the experiment. Number 4, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. Number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is an a priori reason to believe that death or a disabling injury will occur, except perhaps in those experiments where the experimental physicians also serve as subjects. 6, the degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. 7, proper preparations should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subject against even remote possibilities of injury, disability, or death. 8, the experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. The highest degree of skill and care should be required through all stages of the experiment of those who conduct or engage in the experiment. 9, during the course of the experiment, the human subject should be at liberty to bring the experiment to an end if he has reached the physical or mental state where continuation of the experiment seems to him to be impossible. 10, during the course of the experiment, the scientist in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage if he has probable cause to believe, in the exercise of good faith, superior skill, and careful judgment required of him, that a continuation of the experiment is likely to result in injury, disability, or death to the experimental subject. Today, Californians are being subjected to the first ever worldwide medical torture experiment. California state government, without permission from its citizens nor scientific justification, is calling for the torture of its citizens through forced masking, social distancing, and vaccinations, all known torture techniques that produce death. New Californians are experiencing the, quote, failed state environment, end quote. We must not wait to pick up the pieces, but rather position ourselves for what we know is coming. California is headed for collapse as a state in just a few short months, as its trajectory is now set in stone by a pusillanimous, craven dictator who chooses to violate both federal and state laws while ignoring the original constitutional structure set forth by the founding fathers of the United States. Insurrection. The government of California, the current socialist governor dictator, and monoparty system, along with local officials, are following a coordinated design with the intent to actively engage in acts of insurrection against the U.S. Constitution. The Insurrection Act of 1807 and the Emergency Economic Powers Act are United States federal laws that govern the ability of the President of the United States to deploy military troops within the United States to put down lawlessness, insurrection, and rebellion. Acts of secession. The California government, in conjunction with the socialist state executive, instituted wherever the current socialist governor-dictator has usurped power, has actively engaged in acts of secession, and have created a reign of terror on United States citizens living in California, with the intent to secede from the United States of America, to thus destroy the very union of states which secures our liberty and freedom. Abdication of authority. Betrayal by the sitting socialist governor-dictator of California, the monoparty legislature, and local elected officials is evidence of the abdication of their responsibilities of authority and sovereignty over citizens of the United States living in California state. Prayer. The citizens of New California state pray for the military to exercise its authority under the continuity of government and the Insurrection Act of 1807, to initiate the military's use of martial law and create the restored government of California as requested by New California state, to end the tyranny being foisted upon the United States of America. This concludes these proceedings. Website newcaliforniastate.com or ncs51.com. Phone number 877-828-2753.